Our story begins with 30-year-old psychology professor named Max Wertheimer. While he was on a train trip to Frankfurt, he saw a kid playing with a toy called a zoetrope. When a strip of pictures is placed inside the toy and viewed through slits in the zoetrope, a succession of still images appears to be one moving picture. He teamed up with students Kurt Kofka and Wolfgang Kohler to study this phenomenon. And then published his findings in a paper titled Experimental Studies in the Perception of Movement, just in time before their research halted due to the First World War, which separated them. Later, they were reunited when Kohler became the director of the Psychological Institute in the University of Berlin, where Wertheimer was already teaching. They continued their work and set the laws of perception of the Gestalt theory. Proximity law states that we tend to group objects by how close or how far they are placed in relation with each other. While similarity states that elements which have similar appearances can be perceived as a group. Closure means that we tend to fill the gap between elements to create simpler shapes. While symmetry states that we tend to see symmetric elements as being related or as part of a larger whole. And in continuity, we perceive lines that are incomplete as one complete line. And regularity states that we may perceive elements as groups based on their order or arrangement. While figure ground sets the relationship between a figure or an element and its background. And the common fate law says that we group items that have similar movement, or at least convey that they do. And finally, pragnance, which states that familiar and strong elements can't be interpreted or perceived as something else. But Gestalt is not exclusively visual. It can also be auditory.
Of proximity can be used to explain musical relationships as by way of the neighbor tone, or another example here.
And it also appears in therapy, which takes form in role-playing certain events.
And then added his own creativity. So Gestalt therapy is actually a bit unusual compared to a lot of other.
And from time to time we need it to make sense of something in our lives.
صورة لفستان ارتدته السيدة اسكتلندية في عرس ابنتها شكل لغزاً للجميع، إذ أنه في نفس الصورة يظهر بالأبيض والذهبي للبعض والأسود والنيلي للبعض الآخر. الجدل.
Remember the stress? It had to do with figure ground. But Gestalt is mainly apparent in visuals, whether it's graphic design, fashion design, interior design, or the mother of all design fields, architecture. In architecture, symmetry is mostly used in form to convey certain messages. Or maybe because it's easier, which is why sometimes breaking symmetry can allow architects to create exceptional architecture. And closure allows for invisible boundaries to separate certain areas from others. while continuity is widely used in postmodern architecture to ascertain the relationship between facades. While figure ground traps certain architecture in its context, making it difficult to imagine a building in a different context. But no matter what you do, be wary of prognons, as sometimes building forms can carry a strong resemblance to a familiar element that you as an architect will prefer that it doesn't. These all are some examples of Gestalt laws in architecture, but as we have learned earlier, Gestalt laws are laws of perception. You as an architect cannot choose whether to apply them or not, but you can control how your building design is perceived. And to achieve that goal, you must take advantage of these laws to make your building tell a story. Whether you want to make your design be perceived as systematic and orderly, or maybe simple and clean, enclosed or open, the choice is yours. In the end, I would like to thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I was your colleague Faisal alhowshani. If you have any questions, the floor is now yours.